Very simply, marketing is the science of inspiring a curiosity and a desire within your target person for your product or service. When you think of it from that principle, then all of the different examples that came to your mind makes a lot more sense. If you're someone that wants to get tips and tricks to effectively get your book published, perhaps you're an aspiring author, you're starting from scratch, you're a bit confused, you want to get a surefire path to getting your book done, be sure to subscribe to the Getting the Win show. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe at Getting the Win. If you're listening on podcast, subscribe on Spotify. I'm officially on Spotify, so you can find me on audio. Let's get into the show. Good evening and happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. Welcome back to the Getting the Win show. I am your host, Melissa T, the Procrastination Bully. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show, welcome. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. The purpose of this show is to help women who are first-time authors or aspiring authors to take their navigation of their trauma or a major life transition and turn it into a book that they can heal through and help others heal. So if you watch previous episodes and you hear this mission, you might be like, wait, that sounds a little bit different. It is. This is a much more refined mission for this show. So initially, I was teaching people how to beat procrastination. All I did was narrow it to authors. So the purpose of this show is to help aspiring women authors turn their pain into prose, turn their experience into a survival guide for others. All right. And if that's something that you've been procrastinating on, this show is going to help you beat that procrastination and get that book done. In today's episode, I am tackling the number one thing that is going to make or break your book's sales, and that's marketing. If you've been following the last few episodes over the past couple of weeks, I've been walking you through my author framework, and now we are in the messaging pillar. Last episode, we got into the polishing and presenting pillar, right? By the way, regarding that, there's one item in that pillar that I did not mention. So if you want to hear it, stay tuned to the rest of this video. Watch this video all the way through and I'll get to it. All right. So for today's pillar, though, we are now in the messaging pillar, which involves marketing, advertising, and press. MAP. It's a nice little acronym for you to remember. Marketing, advertising, and press. This is the messaging pillar. Now, just a quick heads up. This is a two-parter because this messaging pillar is meaty. So be sure to tune in for next week. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube and the bell icon so you never miss a single notification. You never miss a single episode. And follow me at Getting the Win show on Spotify so you never miss an episode. Make sure you're ready to take notes. So before I get into what it entails, let me first demystify marketing. I want to give you a simple definition that you can use and take with you going forward. Because if you're anything like me and you hear the word marketing, it may sound big, nebulous, and complicated. You may feel like burying your head in the sand, right? If you're anything like me, like the marketing thing, you're just like, what is that? What does that mean? It involves too much stuff. That's overwhelming. I got you. Very simply, marketing is the science of inspiring a curiosity and a desire within your target person for your product or service. It is helping them discover a curiosity and desire to purchase your product or service. It's that simple. It's that simple. When you think of it from that principle, then all of the different examples that came to your mind makes a lot more sense, right? So here are a couple of examples, a couple of present day examples of marketing. So a lot of people like to marry marketing and sales together. They're not the same thing. They're cousins, not twins. Okay. They're not the same thing. Marketing leads to sales. Marketing is important to cause sales. All right. So here are some examples of marketing for you. You may be familiar with the recent Stephen King reboot of his film, It. That's that horror clown movie, right? Pennywise the clown. So one of the lures that Pennywise uses is a red balloon to lure children, because that's what he was targeting. So in Australia, during the world promotion of the movie. In Australia, what the production company decided to do was set up red balloons in the common places where Pennywise would target kids. For instance, sewer grates, like those little storm drains where the water would go down to the sewer. They would tie a red balloon or pin a red balloon there because Pennywise would lurk beneath the streets to try to attract kids. Or in, other common places, crosswalks, different toy stores, things like that, places to attract kids. But that red balloon served as what's called an anchor. It became a visual anchor. Since that is something that's associated with the character, Pennywise the clown, then it brought to people's mind, okay, that movie's coming out. I might want to see it. Even if it's not something they were necessarily thinking about, it aroused in them a curiosity and a possible desire to then go see the movie, to go buy the ticket. So marketing causes sales, it leads to sales, okay? That's one example. And an even more recent example, as of this recording, How to Train Your Dragon is coming out as a live action movie now. And one of the things that Burger King has done, that the fast food chain, they've created a combo specifically for that movie, dedicated to the movie, with a burger that looks weird, in my opinion. The bun is a very deep orange, like they've got some interesting ingredients in the burger, and then I think they offer chicken fries that looks a little bit different than the usual chicken fries to kind of match the color scheme of the characters in the live action movie. So that's something that could stimulate a curiosity in kids when they see those wild colors and they associate it, mental anchor, with the movie. They'll tug on their parents' sleeves to buy the combo, to try it, see what the burger tastes like, find out what the difference is between that burger and the average burgers on the menu. That's marketing that inspires a desire and curiosity to buy that product. That's going to lead to sales. Okay, is this making sense? Hopefully it does. Put it in the chat if it makes sense to you, or if it doesn't yet, type that in the chat too. We'll continue rapping about it. Okay, but that's an example. Here's another one, and this is more in direct context to books. So Sarah Jakes Roberts is a pastor, the daughter of Pastor T.D. Jakes, and during the pandemic from 2020 to 2021, when things were still kind of shut down, she was releasing her book, Woman Evolve, which went on to be a New York Times bestselling book. One of the things she did in promoting the book was already out at the time, but she did a tour called the Refuse to Lose Tour. And what she was doing there to inspire curiosity and desire to buy the book is to inspire women to be their best and most powerful selves. So with the Refuse to Lose campaign, she was fully dressed out, black and white clothes, like a collared shirt with a tie to look very tough, kind of a little bit of masculine energy. And then she had bright red boxing gloves. So it was meant to show an image of a woman that is tough, that is strong, that is ready to overcome all challenges, which was at the core of the Woman Evolve book. So that tour was instrumental in increasing the sales of the Woman Evolve book. So is that a more helpful example? Let me know in the comments, because we're going to get into that as it relates to your books, okay? I wanted to define marketing first to kind of demystify it so it didn't seem so weird and big and complicated. It's simply a strategy that's used to inspire a curiosity and desire for your product or service. And in this direct context, we're talking about your book or your upcoming book if it's not out yet, okay? And ideally, it's not out yet. Like we want to market something that's coming. If your book is already out, then by all means, this still applies, okay? So now we're going to get into the 5 things that'll be needed to build your audience. Because here's the truth. Whether you want to sell your book the independent route, or if you want to do traditional publishing, a traditional publishing house is going to want you to come to them with a large audience already. Like you have to have a platform already for them. So in my personal opinion, hot take, Just be indie. Like, keep your audience, build your platform any way you're going to need it, but just go indie. You'll control more of your IP. You'll have more freedom to do whatever it is you want to do with your book. Build it out however you decide to. Because here's how traditional publishing works. With a traditional publisher, if you go through a literary agent or you pitch a literary agent, they'll pitch it to a traditional publishing house, or a literary agent is working for a publishing house. They accept your book and a contract is drafted. When that contract is drafted, it's basically an agreement for them to purchase the rights to your book. You get an advance, which is basically a loan, and then you recoup that advance by marketing your book yourself. Traditional publishers no longer do that for authors. Way back when, that used to be the model, which is why being picked up by a traditional publisher used to be such a huge deal. The difference between the business model then and the business model now is that traditional publishers only offer one advantage anymore, and that is the ability to place your book in big name bookstores. That's the one advantage traditional publishing has over self-publishing. Everything else lies with self-publishing in terms of advantages. Creative control, you get to maintain all of your IP. You get to determine what's done with your book. So remember, going back to that foundation pillar, feel free to watch that episode. There's a link to watch that episode, and I'll also put it in the description. But with the foundation pillar, we went over what you want your book to do. Do you want it to be a calling card for speaking gigs? Do you want to parlay your book into an online course? Do you want to create an in-person curriculum for academia, whether that's grade schools or colleges and universities? Whatever the purpose of your book is, you would determine that in that pillar, which will then help your decision as to whether or not you want to stick with being indie or go the traditional publishing route. And here's my additional advice regarding that. Even if you want to go the traditional publishing route, I strongly advise that you start indie first. Maintain your creative control and build momentum for your book here, because it is indeed possible. It's not mutually exclusive. You can go indie first and then pitch your book to a traditional publisher that then picks it up, and then it makes a bestseller list. That's possible. There have been authors that have done that. In a previous video, I talked about the attempts that authors have made and got rejected dozens of times, scores of times, even hundreds of times by traditional publishers before finally getting picked up and published and going on to become bestsellers. So it is possible for you. Like, you can start self-published. Some of those authors that I mentioned in that previous video, they had to self-publish first because the traditional publishers weren't picking them up. So they began on the self-publishing side, gained their audience, and by the time they pitched a publisher again, a publisher said yes. Or even better, some of them gained such a huge following independently that publishers took notice of them and then approached them to pick their books up. That's a flex. So that's my take on that. I would recommend you start on the indie side first. Start while you have that creative control, and then build from there. So now we're going to get into these five elements of marketing. And this is within your 6 to 12 month window of launch. Okay. Within 6 to 12 months of launch, run through these 5 approaches. These are different things. So they're not in chronological order. These are just 5 things that are recommended for you to do to build your audience. So number 1, get clear on your messaging to your target reader. In a previous video where I covered that foundation step, I talked about that, like narrowing down your one person that you're talking to with your book, not a target audience, just your one person. Okay. So getting clear on what that message is. Here's an example. So I have a book that is on the way. I have a book that's in the works right now. I'm targeting Vanessa. That is a 40-something-year-old mom, right? Married, has a family. She's both a 9-to-5 employee and an entrepreneur. So I'm talking to Vanessa, because my goal is to help women who have navigated either a trauma or a major life transition find healing through the writing of their book. And they're aspiring authors. They've wanted to write a book, they've been thinking about it, but they're not sure, right? That's Vanessa for me. And my book is aimed at her. So the next step, the way to elevate that message is to turn it into a movement or a mission. Turn it into a cause that people will want to get behind. Donald Miller, who's a best-selling writer, the author of the book How to Grow Your Small Business, he proposes a mission statement that's sort of an XYZ statement. My mission is to do X by Y because Z. And doing the mission statement like that turns it into a bit of a story. And his belief is when a mission is delivered in the form of a story, people remember it more. In a previous episode, I talked about the fact that we as people love to both hear and tell stories. Stories make facts stick. Stories give facts context. So when you phrase your message to your target reader as a mission, then that adds story to it and they feel like they can join in. It gives them something to buy into. We always love to be part of something greater, something bigger than ourselves. We love being instrumental in something big. As my example, my mission is to help 3,000 first-time women authors who have navigated a trauma or a major transition find healing through writing their books, because their books are going to become someone else's survival guide. I personally believe that by December 2025. That is my by why. So when you hear something like that, you might be like, oh, that's what she wants to do? That kind of resonates with me. I want to be a part of that. So that's an example. And you can use that as a template for yours. Whatever your book is about, whatever your goal is for your book, that purpose that you have for your book. But turn it into a movement so people can dive in. They can get behind it. They can want to join you. Okay? Make it more appealing and more memorable. When it's a movement, it's more memorable. To that example earlier that I gave about Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts, that Refuse to Lose tour was something that people wanted to get behind because women saw themselves in Sarah and they were like, you know what? I know I'm strong, but with this pandemic and everything that was going on, the world is uncertain. I want to make sure I'm winning. And they joined in. The next thing after that is you want to start building your mailing list. So while you crafted your story, your message into a movement, you also then want to shout it from the rooftops. You gotta make it be seen online. So building your mailing list is one of the most effective ways to do that. Social media is good, but ultimately you want to get them off the platforms in a place where you can collect their information, because the platforms, whatever is said on the platforms, they own it. Quite frankly, we're giving them free content, but they own it all as long as it's on their platform. So you want to have a place to collect their emails. So the most effective way to do that, you've likely heard the term before, but create a lead magnet or a buyer magnet, as Peter Sage puts it. Peter Sage is a multi-million-dollar coach who coaches coaches. He helps up-and-coming coaches build out their businesses. And he calls it a buyer magnet because we all want people to convert, right? Leads are good, but ultimately we want conversions, aka sales. So create a buyer magnet. This can be in the form of a sample chapter. It can be in the form of a framework that maybe you've come up with as a result of your experience through that major life transition, or as a result of the work you've done to heal from the trauma. It can be a framework you've come up with. It can be a checklist for something. It can be a comparison chart that you can use or your reader can use as a resource, but something downloadable and actionable that they can use right then, something that's going to help them and improve their lives immediately. That's the kind of magnet you want to create. Now, the reason it's called a buyer magnet and not a lead magnet is with a buyer magnet, you have the option for it to be free or for it to be low cost. Now, Peter Sage is recommending no more than 19 bucks if you're gonna add a dollar amount to that magnet, because you want to generate so much value and over deliver so much value within that downloadable, that the $19 will feel like a steal to them. Like, oh, I'll definitely get this for 19. Let me get that. And there are plenty of people who have created online businesses with just info marketing. That's literally what that is. They're infopreneurs. So they'll create guides and checklists and, workbooks, digital workbooks, things like that, infographics that provide instructions. Those are products that people sell and people buy them because they count as digital resources. So you can create something like that as a means of marketing your book, because you're downloadable, whether it's a guide, a checklist, a framework, a comparison chart, whatever form that's going to take, is going to inspire within them a greater desire and curiosity to then eventually get the book. The downloadable is just to get their email address first. Okay. That way you can then eventually sell them the book through your email nurture sequence. Through social media, you can use direct messaging campaigns. So there are tools out there like ManyChat, as an example, which can automate that sort of thing. You've likely been on social media and somebody will say, comment the word this and you'll get this for free. Or comment the word this and I'll drop you the link. And you can set up an automation so that when the person types that comment, they automatically get a direct message, which then supplies the link to your landing page, which brings me to that next thing. This is number 3 in the process, or kind of 2A. You want to create the landing page so that they have some place to come to get your downloadable. Now, building an author website, sure, that can be a longer term goal if you want. But remember, this is the procrastination bully you're listening to. So the less friction, the better. A landing page is much easier and faster to create than an author website. A website has multiple pages in it, whereas a landing page is just one, with information about the downloadable and about who you are and the problem you solve and the problem you're going to solve with your book. And then just a link for them to download the downloadable in exchange for their email address. The next thing to consider really quickly as it relates to emails, if your ultimate goal is to land a bestseller list, the goal is to build your mailing list to 10,000. More than that is even better, but minimum 10,000, because those higher numbers will ensure higher book sales as well. Now, this brings me to the next thing to consider as a form of marketing. Remember, we're inspiring a desire and a curiosity for our book, right? So here's the next approach on the list. Do behind the scenes or over the shoulder content for your audience. Now, that would be released over social media, okay? And of course, one thing you also want to do is create a community around your book. When you formulate that movement, create the community to start capturing your folks so that they're like-minded and joining you and cheering you on and following the book process along with you. There are plenty of free ways to do it. You can set up a Facebook group. You can do it over WhatsApp. You can do it on Telegram. My community is on Telegram. So when you're doing your behind the scenes or over the shoulder content, you can share it over social media and share it within your community as well, because your community is definitely hungry to see your process. They want to see your progress. They want to watch you grow in real time. So doing those behind the scenes and over the shoulder pieces of content will be a great way to inspire that curiosity. Like, ooh, first of all, they'll be like, I didn't know you were working on a book. Okay. So I did that as an example. I did that very recently. My deadline for my first draft was May 31st. So I recorded with my phone a very quick video of me just scrolling through the pages of my rough draft. And then on June 1st, I posted that on social media, posted it in my community, posted it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram. I made sure to show all of my audience, all of my community, whether the exclusive community or the community abroad, like, hey, this is what I said I was going to do. It's done. Take a look. people are excited. They show love when they see stuff like that. And that brings me to the next step in this 6 to 12 month marketing window, which is go outside. Sounds like a simple step, right? But all the previous steps I just mentioned can be done from home. All of that stuff is virtual. But there is nothing that can be compared to networking with people, talking to people in real time, face to face, and letting them know what you're working on, letting them know about your book, and bringing them on board. They might hear it and be like, oh, this is something interesting. I'm in. I want to be part of that. So for something like that, obviously have your business cards ready with your face. If you're so sophisticated, if you are so inclined and you already have a book idea, like a book cover idea, you can design the business cards with the book cover design or even with the book colors. Even if you don't already have a book cover, that's okay. If you have an idea of what you want your book to look like, maybe the color scheme that you want to use, you can design the business card with those book colors and put the title of your book if you've got a working title. But have a business card ready though to be able to network with them. If you can't afford to do that right now, because hey, times are tight, hashtag tariffs, you can start with a free QR code generator. So once you create your landing page, because that's a must, that is an investment you will need to make, period. There's no way around that. You're going to need a landing page. Once you make your landing page, then you can use a free QR code generator to create a free QR code and then save that image to your phone. Download the image from the web, save it to your phone so that even if you don't have a business card, at the very least, you can hold up your phone and show the QR code so they can scan that and get all of your information or the key to your landing page, the link to your landing page. So go outside. This is very important. You can network with organizations that are connected to your target reader, right? You're targeting where your target reader would hang out. So in my example, Vanessa, right? She's in her 40s, working mom and wife, also entrepreneur. She has a side hustle. She's got a business of her own. So we're talking women's organizations, women's leadership organizations, women's business organizations, women's wellness organizations, women's mental health organizations, because I'm talking about helping women heal through the writing of their book, healing from traumas that they've navigated or major life transitions that they've navigated. And here's a bit of a cheat code with that too. Also go through peripheral genres and organizations connected to your book, not just the specific direct thing. So one of my targets, right, is a woman who's navigated a major life transition. Doesn't have to be a trauma. A major life transition could be a woman going from a full house to an empty nest. That's a major transition. A woman who's gone through a health journey like myself, a woman who's gone through a fitness journey. So I could even target women's fitness organizations, women's health organizations. These are all options because they're connected to my target reader. Now, another cheat code, and I learned this one from Ayanna Matthews, who I've had on the show previously. Ayanna Matthews is someone who is a business developer. She helps entrepreneurs level their businesses up on a global scale. She solves your problems on a global scale in record time. And after talking through my goals, she recommended, like, oh, okay, you'll want to talk to libraries, library associations, and literary societies. Talk to those three. And I said, okay, that makes sense. So for you, as an aspiring author, keep that in mind as well. You want to reach out to them as well. When you're going out to different events, going out to different networking opportunities, library associations, local libraries, literary societies, literary associations. Awesome ideas, right? And then, of course, local bookstores. You'll definitely want to network with local bookstores because they're going to be looking for books to bring in. They'll always want to especially from indie artists. Local bookstores are far more open and receptive to indie authors. So keep that in mind. Now that is the 6 to 12 month window. That's a 6 to 12 month window. We're going to bring it in now and draw closer. Then your 3 to 6 month window, as the time draws nearer for you to launch, I've got 3 things, 3 marketing approaches there. Number 1, lives. So live Q&As, live AMAs, ask me anything. Live Q&As, live AMAs, where you're giving audience feedback, you're answering questions, you're maybe previewing some things about your book, maybe doing a quick preview through a chapter, doing quick previews through your table of contents so people have an idea of what's to come, that sort of thing. This brings us to the next thing. In addition to doing live Q&As and AMAs, you want to start connecting with influencers and maybe authors in peripheral or complementary genres to do joint ventures with them. So this can look like virtual conferences, virtual summits, that sort of thing. But you'll want to start connecting with folks who have audiences of their own to introduce yourself to their audiences, and they can be introduced to yours. They can learn more about your book in advance and then put out the good word about your book to their audience and lend credibility to your book. And when I say influencer, don't think 1.2 million followers or something like that. You can come down. You don't even have to aim for 100,000 followers. You can aim for 10,000. You can start as low as that. You can start as low as that. They will be far more reachable. They'll be more receptive because their audiences are a bit smaller. And you'll be able to do joint ventures with them. You'll be introduced to their wider audience and broaden your reach. So connecting with influencers, giving them a preview copy of your book, and that way they can do reviews and put out a good word for your book. Now, as I promised, if you're still here, thank you so much for sticking all the way through to the end. If you're still here, I promise that I did miss one thing from the last pillar, from last week's episode, the polishing and presenting pillar. So last week, I talked about the different types of print books that you can produce. Because with polishing and presenting, I was talking about getting your book prepared to present to the world. So editing it, designing its cover, doing the interior design and layout, all of the things, right? But I talked about it from an ebook and a print book standpoint. The one format I did not talk about is audiobooks. That is a whole separate audience. And that is an approach you'll want to do for your book, for sure. Because there's some people who may not have time to sit and read and flip through pages and don't necessarily want to scroll on a screen either. But they can play it on their commute. They're sitting in their car waiting to get to work every day. Or they can multitask while you're in their ear, narrating your book. Or if you choose to hire somebody to narrate your book, the point is your book can be in their ear. There are plenty of audio platforms. By all means, use your AI tools to research them. The one that comes to mind for me is acx.com, which is Amazon's audio marketplace because it feeds into audible.com, which is theirs. So that's a thought for you. With that polishing and presenting pillar, make sure that audiobooks are part of your strategy for polishing and presenting your book. Not only having it in paperback or hardcover with a dust jacket or spiral bound, also have the audiobook version. Okay? So thank you so much for sticking with me. If you found this video beneficial, by all means, hit that like button and share it with your peoples. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon on YouTube so you get all of the notifications and never miss a single value-packed episode. And of course, the show is now on Spotify, so follow the Getting the Win show on Spotify. And hey, share that with your folks too. Now, stay tuned for part 2, which is coming up next week, because this pillar was a big one. There was a lot involved in this one. In the meantime, in between time, have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.